Okay, so today we're diving into the Iliad, but like a really specific part, and honestly, it's one of those stories that just gets to you, even all these centuries later.
Absolutely.
We're
Yeah.
using this transcript from an art TV documentary, and it's all about Patroclus, Achilles' best friend. And it really zooms in on the moment when Patroclus decides to enter the Trojan War wearing Achilles' armor. Huge decision.
Huge. And I think that's what we really want to understand today. What makes him do it? Like, what's going on inside his head? And then, just as important, what happens because of that choice. We're going to see
Right.
a lot about, friendship, what honor meant back then, and how desperate things can get, even for like the bravest people.
So the Greeks, they're not doing so hot at this point in the story.
Yeah.
It's way beyond a little setback. We're talking potential wipeout.
Right. So the transcript, it describes how Hector, who's this amazing Trojan warrior, he's basically been defeated. Like he's had this epic duel with Ajax, and it looked like he was done for. But then, boom, Apollo steps in, gives him this crazy surge of power.
It's a total reversal, right?
Cruel.
Like one minute the Trojans are barely hanging on, and the next, they're this unstoppable force just crashing over the Greek army. I love how the transcript says they're acclaiming Apollo and charging forward together, Hector leading the way.
And that does something to the Greeks. You can practically see their courage just draining away. The transcript says they take fright and their heart falls to the ground. They're being pushed back so hard all the way to their ships.
And it's not just running away. The Trojans, they're going straight for the Greek fleet carrying torches. The documentary makes it so vivid, this image of hundreds of fiery stars as they're trying to burn the ships. You really get a sense of how close it was to total disaster.
Absolutely. And Ajax, he's fighting like crazy, like a raging lion, they say, right there in front of the ships. But he's just one guy, even if he is super strong. It's not enough to stop the Trojans.
So while all this is going down, where's Patroclus? You'd think he'd be right there with Ajax, sword in hand, but no.
No, he's behind the lines, taking care of the wounded. They even name some of the biggest names, like Nestor, Agamemnon, Menelaus. He's with them, using these medicinal powders. So even with all the fighting going on, he's this caring, supportive presence.
Which is why it's so striking when he does decide to enter the battle. Like, to get why he does what he does, we need to go deeper into who he is, especially his connection to Achilles.
Yeah, it's a seriously deep bond. So the transcript tells us Patroclus is Achilles' cousin. His dad was Minucius, one of the Argonauts. But there's more. They were exiled together when they were young because Patroclus, he accidentally killed someone, and so they both end up in Phthia being raised by Peleus, Achilles' father.
So they're practically brothers, really shaped by that shared experience. And it goes even further, right? Patroclus had this specific duty given to him by his own father.
Yeah, before they leave for Troy, Minucius, he basically tells Patroclus, look after Achilles, be his guide, give him good advice. So Patroclus isn't just a friend, he's supposed to be a mentor, someone to keep Achilles, who can be a little impulsive, on the right track.
So, back to the battle. The Greeks are this close to being completely overrun, and Patroclus, he hears the cries, he sees what's happening from the camp. How does he react?
He's seeing his friends, his comrades, about to be destroyed. He freaks out, rushes to Achilles' tent, and what he finds there, it's almost hard to believe given what's going on just outside.
Achilles is just chilling, playing the lyre.
Yep.
It's crazy, right?
Total disconnect. Achilles is so wrapped up in his fight with Agamemnon that he's basically checked out of the war. And Patroclus, he's seeing the Greeks on the verge of collapse, and he can't handle Achilles just sitting there. It's like he doesn't even recognize him. The transcript actually says the Greeks are on the point of all perishing, and he plays the lyre.
You can just hear the disbelief. It's
Okay.
heartbreaking. And Patroclus, he just lets it all out. Tears, accusations, everything. The documentary says he looks at Achilles like he's a stranger, saying this guy who's so caught up in his own anger cannot be the son of the illustrious Peleus and the divine Thetis. He must have been born from the belly of a rock to remain thus insensitive before the ruin of the Greeks. It's intense.
Yeah, and you really feel the desperation, the depth of his care for the Greek army. And this is when he makes his plea, kneels right there in front of Achilles, begging him, if you won't fight, at least let me lead the Myrmidons and let me wear your armor.
Desperate times, desperate measures, right? But there's a logic to it. The Trojans are terrified of Achilles. Just seeing his armor might make them think he's back, and that could change everything.
Exactly. That's the hope. Scare the Trojans, force them to retreat, give the Greeks a chance to regroup.
So Achilles, he's got his best friend begging him, the whole army depending on him, but he's still so angry at Agamemnon.
Oh, yeah. He even reminds Patroclus about the insult, how unfair it was when Agamemnon took his prize. He says, and this is a direct quote, "No man has the right to frustrate one of his peers and rob him of his share of honor because his power gives him more." He's still seriously wounded by that.
But Patroclus, he keeps pushing, saying, look, we're about to lose everything. Let it go. Does Achilles give in?
He does, eventually. I think he's moved by Patroclus's distress, by how bad things are for the Greeks. The transcript says Achilles takes pity on his friend, so he says, yes, you can wear my armor, lead the Myrmidons.
But he doesn't just say, go wild, have fun.
Right, no way. He gives Patroclus this very clear warning. Drive the Trojans away from the ships, but don't go chasing after them all the way to Troy. Don't try to be a hero, and watch out for the gods. They might not like it if you push too far.
It's like he's still torn. He wants to save the Greeks, but he also doesn't want Patroclus to take too much risk.
There's this really interesting line in the transcript that hints at that. Achilles says he wishes that only Patroclus and Achilles survive and enter together within Troy's powerful walls. It's like he wants them to be the only ones left, just him and Patroclus.
Wow. Okay, so before Patroclus heads into battle, who are the Myrmidons? The documentary talks about their origin, and it's pretty unique.
Yeah, they're known as these fierce soldiers, and there are two main stories about where they came from. One says Zeus turned a bunch of ants into men for King Midas, and that became the Myrmidons. The other says they're descended from people whose queen was seduced by Zeus, but he was in the form of an ant. So either way, they've got this connection to Zeus, and they inherit some of his strength.
So transformed ants, or kids of Zeus in ant form, the point is they're hardcore warriors. And Achilles, he gives them a very specific order about Patroclus.
He says, and this is important, obey Patroclus as you would obey me. That shows you the level of trust he has in Patroclus.
So the news spreads. The Myrmidons are back, and someone's wearing Achilles' armor. That must have shaken things up for both sides.
Totally. For the Greeks, it's like a huge boost. The transcript says the news spreads through the ranks like the wind, and they're suddenly full of hope. They think Achilles is back, ready to fight.
But the Trojans, they're not so easily fooled. There's this scene in the documentary where Cassandra, the prophetess, warns her brother Paris.
Yeah, Cassandra, she's got this gift, but it's also a curse. She always knows the truth, but no one ever believes her, and she's freaking out, telling Paris, Achilles is back. He's going to face Hector. This is bad news for Troy.
And Paris is like, nah, no way. Achilles is way too proud to forget that insult from Agamemnon, which just shows how well they knew Achilles, but also how blind they were to the real threat.
Yeah, they're so focused on Achilles' past that they don't see what's right in front of them. And Patroclus, leading the Myrmidons, they hit the Trojans like a hurricane. That's how the transcript puts it.
And the Trojans, they see that armor and they panic.
Total panic. They think it's Achilles and they just run. The transcript says, believing it was Achilles, the divine Achilles at the head of his troops, they immediately retreated. No, soon not a single Trojan was near the Greek ships. Patroclus, he did what he set out to do. He pushed them back from the ships.
And he fights like a beast, right?
Oh, yeah. Prodigious valor, that's what they say. He's cutting down enemies left and right, and the Greeks, they see that and their spirits soar. They're not just defending anymore, they're attacking.
But here's the thing. This is where Patroclus makes his big mistake. He forgets what Achilles told him.
Yeah, it's tragic. He gets caught up in the moment, in the victory, and instead of just pushing the Trojans back, he goes after them. He wants to stop them from getting back to Troy to finish them off.
And this leads him to Sarpedon.
Right, who is a big deal, king of Lycia, and get this, the son of Zeus. The transcript talks about all his heroic deeds, how strong he is.
So now it's not just a fight between two guys. It's got these huge implications for the gods. Zeus is watching all this, and he's got to be torn.
He's in agony. He actually reaches for his aegis like he's about to strike down Patroclus to save his son. But Hera steps in. She reminds him that the gods agreed not to mess with the war directly, and more importantly, she says, remember fate. You can't fight fate.
So even Zeus, the king of the gods, he's got limits. He can't change what's meant to be. And Sarpedon, he's fated to die at Patroclus's hand. It's a reminder of how powerful fate is in this story.
Absolutely. Zeus, heartbroken, he has to step back and let it happen. And Patroclus kills Sarpedon, fulfilling that prophecy.
But he doesn't stop there. He's on a roll now. And he actually tries to attack Troy itself 3 times, according to the documentary.
He does. Maybe he's thinking he can end the whole war right there, but it's too much. Every time, Apollo pushes him back. Apollo, the god of light, he's on Troy's side and he's not messing around.
But the gods are literally stepping in, saying you've gone too far, and you know it's about to go bad for Patroclus.
It does. Apollo hides himself in a mist and basically messes with Patroclus, makes his limbs feel heavy, clouds his vision, and then Hector shows up.
And that's it. Hector sees his chance, throws his spear, hits Patroclus in the lower abdomen. Mortal wound.
The transcript says Patroclus just sinks in an instant into the abyss of death. And then, to make it even worse, Hector takes Achilles' armor off Patroclus' body.
That's got to be a huge blow to the Greeks. Their champion is dead, and now the Trojans have his armor. Talk about demoralizing.
And Hector, he's planning to wear it too. He thinks it'll scare the Greeks even more, and it probably would. But the Greeks, they're not just going to let the Trojans take Patroclus' body. Menelaus and Ajax, they lead the charge to get him back.
It's about honor, right?
Yeah. They can't let their comrade be desecrated like that. Plus, they know what'll happen if Achilles finds out.
Oh yeah, they're terrified of his wrath. They're fighting for Patroclus, but they're also fighting out of fear of what Achilles will do.
Exactly.
So how does Achilles take the news? Someone's got to tell him, and that can't be easy.
It isn't. Nobody wants to do it. Finally, Nestor's son, he gets the job, and when Achilles hears it, he just loses it. The transcript says he covers himself in ashes, tears his hair, rolls around in the dust. It's this primal grief.
Like all that rage he had for Agamemnon, it's nothing compared to this. He's completely broken. And the transcript says his cries are so loud they reach his mother, Thetis, down in the sea.
And she comes right away, sees her son in this state, and he tells her everything. About Patroclus, about the armor, about how much it hurts, and Thetis, she just listens.
And then she does this thing. She reminds him of something he doesn't want to hear. She says, remember how you wanted the Greeks to suffer because of Agamemnon? Well, this is what you wished for.
It's harsh, but it's true. And Achilles, he knows it. But losing Patroclus, that wasn't part of the plan.
And now everything changes. It's not about Agamemnon anymore. It's about revenge.
Yeah. Achilles says his only goal now is to kill Hector. Nothing else matters.
And Thetis, she reminds him about the prophecy, the choice he has to make, a long life but no glory, or a short life and everlasting fame.
And Achilles, he doesn't even hesitate. He's willing to die if it means avenging Patroclus.
So he's made his choice. He's going after Hector.
And Thetis, she makes him a promise. She says, I'll be back before sunrise with new armor for you, forged by Hephaestus himself. Imagine that. Armor made by a god.
So to sum it all up, Patroclus, he was so brave, so selfless, but in the end, his choices led to his death. He wanted to help his friend, help the Greeks, but he didn't listen to Achilles, and it cost him everything.
It's a powerful story about friendship, about loyalty, about the terrible things that happen in war. And his death, even though it was a mistake, it's what wakes up Achilles, that legendary rage. It changes the whole course of the war. And the gods, they're always there, pulling the strings, shaping destiny.
It makes you think, doesn't it? Like, Patroclus had all this responsibility as a warrior, as Achilles' advisor, and he walked this line between doing the right thing and going too far.
And that's the question I want to leave you with. Think about that line. Where is it in your own life? What are the consequences, the good ones and the bad ones, of the choices we make, especially when we're trying to help others? It's something this ancient story is still teaching us today.
That's something to think about, for sure. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the Iliad. Until next time.